Good Thursday to everybody. It's not good morning anymore. Maybe it is for some of you. We have a lot of international people attending this webinar, our online seminar. I'm sorry. Welcome. I'll just give it 30 more seconds for the last people to drop in. You're welcome to say hi in the chat. Good morning. Hi, Samine. Welcome too. Nice to have you. And Nina. Good to see you. Please, throughout this webinar, feel free to use the chat. We have Melanie. I'll give you a short introduction in a bit, who's ready at the keyboard to answer your questions. I think we should just get started. So again, welcome. It's very nice to see so many registered and attending this webinar. I have really nice guests here today, and I hope you will enjoy the company as much as I do. Trine Kolding, welcome. You are an author and a teacher, or an educator, you might say. We call you an expert in time, how to spend your time best possible way, how to plan your day and make your work more effective, and also avoid interruptions and stay focused on what you really need to do. And you're an author of 8 books. And this is the last thing. Stay focused is also what your new book is about. Yeah. It is in Danish, so we will wait till the English version comes out. It might take a little while, but we'll see. And also, you also started the time tracking solution.
I did
a few years ago.
Many years ago.
But I don't think you're a competitor to TimeLog.
No.
Today. Yes, and welcome. It's very nice to have you. It's also nice to have you, Karsten, Rasmussen.
Yeah.
And you've been CEO of a whole line of companies.
That's true.
Yes, you have a very impressive LinkedIn profile.
Thank you.
And also founded a lot of companies, so a lot of new ideas.
Yes.
And in this webinar, you're, in your own words, you have a personal experience with time tracking.
Exactly.
Both as a person who has to use the timesheets on a weekly basis, so having that understanding, but also as somebody who has to track time. Yeah. And rumor has it wasn't your favorite thing in the world.
That's true.
Yeah. So the good thing about you is that that inspired you to start Time Jam, which kind of introduced gamification to time tracking.
Yes.
And makes it more motivation and,
yes.
and
fun.
A
little bit of fun. Yes.
Yes.
Exactly.
And we might add you had a lot of success actually doing this. So welcome to the webinar. Oh, I will just change here. So today, why are we talking about focus, motivation, and time tracking at this online seminar? As we have a lot of customers here today. You know TimeLog. We supply project management and time tracking to more than 25,000 users, more than 900 companies. And we can say that for our customers, at least most of them, time tracking is really at the core of their business. If you're billing your consultant's time, you use it for invoicing. If you have internal project mostly, you use it for your overview, and you can also gain a lot of insights. And I know, Trine, you will explain a little bit more on this insights and actually how to use it later in your presentation. After we've done this for more than 20 years now, so we have a lot of experience, we might say, and we've also come across 3 challenges, and those are some we would like to tackle so we can gain all the benefits of time tracking. What most employees consider high-value tasks, such as work as customers, time tracking can seem as something that interrupts. It's not necessarily so motivating. If you're an employee, somebody else asks you to track your time. And because of this, often you see late timesheet. They're not so precise maybe, and somebody has to collect it, and that somebody, I know Karsten will say a little bit about this. Yeah. He's not so popular and doesn't really like that job. Maybe a lot of you here today kind of know this situation. So before I give the word to you, Trine, I would just like to add, you can ask questions in the chat here. We have Melanie here today, and she's ready at the keyboard. And when Trine takes over, we will also try to sit at our computers and answer your questions. And Melanie will make sure that we get all your questions up here. So please feel free to ask anything you like. You will have the recording sent afterwards in an email. So just relax and enjoy the show. Trine, the floor is yours.
The show is mine.
Yes.
Thank you so much. I'll just get the presentation ready. So just a short introduction to my background. I've been teaching time management seminars for the past 22 years. And I've written 8 different books on time and focus and efficiency, both for managers, for employees, for self-employed people, and also for families with small children on how to save time and create more focus during the day. So I've also done my fair share of time registration, and as Karsten also said, maybe it wasn't my favorite. Actually, it was quite, the most unpopular task I had to do. So I spent a few years, trying to avoid time registration. I was the employee who always waited until Friday to fill out my timesheets, and that was quite frustrating for my surroundings, specifically the economics department. But at some point, I actually realized that tracking my time was also a very gave me a lot of insight into how I actually spent my time. So it was a good analyzing tool. And whenever I teach my time management seminars, I always hear 2 things from the participants. 1, we never have enough time. And 2, it's so difficult to focus during a workday because we're always interrupted. So I just want to share with you some insights into how we can create more time and how we can strengthen our focus. I'm going to give you also 4 very concrete strategies on how to reduce and handle interruptions, and also show you how to regain focus after being interrupted. I guess that you, just like me, often find yourself during a workday trying to stay focused. Maybe you're deeply immersed into a very interesting or brain-demanding task. And that's exactly at that point where your telephone rings or somebody comes and asks you a question. And that's always a difficult situation because you're so immersed and so focused, and you know that being interrupted, you're going to be defocused away from the original task. And after having answered the question or the telephone, you have to get back, and that takes a lot of time. So I'm going to show you a very easy method on how to regain your focus after you've been interrupted. So today I'm really a big fan of time registration, and you can do it in many ways. What I'm talking about now is a very specific way of time tracking, meaning when you track your interruptions during the day, you actually get a really important insight into how often are you interrupted, what are you interrupted by, who are you interrupted by, and most people are interrupted so many times during the day, and there's a huge time-saving potential in finding your interruptions and also using strategies to reduce them and to handle them. So I would strongly recommend that you try to track your interruptions, and you can do it very easily. You can just have a piece of paper or post it, and just for the next 2 or 3 days, maybe just write down every time you're interrupted, and also what are you interrupted by or who are you interrupted by. So in my experience, we often see a very strong pattern. Maybe it's the same person who interrupts you all the time. Maybe you're the one who interrupts yourself. Self-induced interruptions are typically a very busy mind if you have a lot of thoughts or ideas. It could also be procrastination. I don't know if you have ever encountered procrastination, but some of us do. When I have to do my taxes, I always seem to find, good excuses to do other more interesting tasks like tidying up my office or answering emails or whatever, anything to get away from my taxes. So take a few days and try to track your interruptions in order to find and recognize the patterns. So my question to you right now is, what are you interrupted by during a workday? Because we're going to be looking a little bit closer at interruptions and just how huge a time-saving potential we can find in reducing and handling interruptions. So the question is, what are you interrupted by during a workday? And please write it in the chat so we can all see the different examples of interruptions. What are you interrupted by during the workday? So emails, we have emails. I'm just gonna write it up here. My boss, Karsten says, emails and my boss. And what else? So I guess the boss could be like a physical interruption, questions or new tasks. Personal, Matilda, personal, do you mean that you interrupt yourself? And Yvonne writes, my employees, notifications. Yeah. Are you interrupted by anything else but emails, notifications, your boss, your staff, maybe telephones? I'm just going to write myself up here as well. Office noise, that's a good one. If you're in an open space office, a lot of people are often interrupted by other people talking or just, background noise. And it's very different how we are interrupted. I often hear that because I often do time management seminars for people working in open space offices. And some people are highly distracted by other people talking and some are not. And I often hear people who are not distracted by office noise telling their colleagues it's just a matter of time. When you've been sitting here for some time, you're going to get used to it. And I'm just going to say not so much, because it's how our brain and our nervous system is perceiving the different noise. And some people are very sensitive to noise and some people are not. Personally, I'm very sensitive to what I call visual noise. So visual noise is clutter, piles of paper on my desk, Post-its and so on, and also people moving around. I'm often, before I started my own company, I was often placed in the middle of an open space office. My boss told me that the reason why she put me there because I was so extroverted and I could talk to everybody, and that, maybe that's a good thing, but in terms of being distracted, it was really difficult for me to be sitting in the middle of the room because often people were walking by my desk. And even though I really tried to stay focused, the moment my eyes caught a distraction or something moving, I was looking up, and often people walking by perceived that as an invitation to come over and talk. So I had a lot of unnecessary interruptions during the day. Yvonne writes meetings, and there's chat messages as well. So a lot of different distractions and interruptions. And I just want to point out that interruptions are not necessarily a bad thing. It's often part of the job, and we're supposed to be, available for questions and so on. But some of the interruptions are not so necessary, and maybe we can postpone them a little bit if we have to stay focused on a specific task or project. So I just want to show you how huge a time-saving potential there actually is in being aware of your interruptions and trying to reduce them or even remove them. So let's imagine for a moment that you are focused on one thing at a time. Maybe you've removed all the clutter around you, and maybe you've put yourself in a meeting room and you are totally immersed into a project or a task. You're really, really focused and very efficient. So at this point, an interruption turns up, and it could be any of the interruptions that you mentioned. Let's choose email just for the sake of the argument. So you're focused, and now an email notification turns up, and it may just be the little one, the icon in the bottom of your screen. For most people, when you're focused on something, even that little movement will create a movement from your eyes going, oh, what was that? And it may just be for a split second, but in that split second, you go from being focused to defocusing. So focused and defocused, and maybe you're even so lucky that you can see a few lines of what people have written to you. So either you can go, yes, that was exactly the information I was waiting for, or maybe if somebody's writing a not so great message, your mood goes down. You go, oh, now he's writing again. So you could get that little mood swing into your interruptions as well. So you're going from being focused to defocused, and at some point you have to return to your original focus. So we refocus back. And this movement back and forth, focus, defocus, and refocus, I call this transition time. So transition time is the time it takes you to regain your original focus after being interrupted. When writing one of my books, I was interviewing a brain scientist, and I asked him, do we have any science research that indicates how long time does it take to regain your original focus after an interruption? And he said it takes between half a minute and up until 20 minutes. I love the very accurate time frame. But as he said, the reason why it's so broad is that it always depends on how complex either the thing you're working on is or the interruption. So the more complex it is, the longer time it takes for you to regain your original focus. So let's just for a minute imagine how many times during a workday are you interrupted by small and big things, by other people, by yourself? All these times between half a minute and up until 20 minutes. That creates a lot of time waste during a day. And of course, we have to remember that not all interruptions are bad, but just imagine you could remove just a few of these. Imagine how much more time you would be able to create and how much more focused you could actually be. So what I want to do now is give you 4 very concrete strategies on how to reduce and how to handle interruptions in a very professional and polite manner. So let's get back to the presentation. So 4 very concrete strategies. The first one is called remove. That's actually an invitation for the next couple of days to, 1, look at your interruption patterns. What and who are you interrupted by? And then also stay curious in terms of which ones of these interruptions would you be able to remove? If you're a clutterhead like me, I'm really good at making piles at my desk. So to me, that creates a visual distraction that actually captures my focus and removes it away from what I'm actually supposed to be focusing on. So for me, it's a very big deal to keep a clean desk. Very big deal to keep a clean desk. I also have to be very oriented towards keeping my inbox as clean as possible. Otherwise, I'm easily distracted by other emails. So what could you remove easily? That could also be the notifications on your email. If you still have notifications, that's a good place to start. Also be aware of if you are sensitive to visual distractions, like I talked about, like me being in an open space office, I have to be very careful where I place myself. If I'm sitting in the middle of the room, I'm easily distracted. So I always try to get a seating close to the wall, to the outer areas, or maybe just turning my side to to where people are walking back and forth. So there are so many small and big things that you can actually do in order to remove the different interruptions during a workday. And also strategy number 2 is called reduce. And it's about thinking ahead, being a little bit smart. So if you know that you need some time and space to be focused and to be immersed into a project, then plan ahead. Could you work from home? Could you use a meeting room? Do you have any quiet spaces in the place you're working? Or maybe just tell your coworkers, this afternoon I have to be really focused. So for the next hour, I'm just gonna immerse myself I'm not available for interruptions. Maybe you could use symbols. A lot of my customers have different kinds of symbols, like, the busy light, the little small light that you can put on your computer screen, and it turns red whenever you're busy. You can use noise cancelling headphones, which also sends a signal to your surroundings that you're actually busy and are not to be disturbed. So just think about how can you create the time and space for you to be focused and not to be interrupted when you need to. So strategy number 3 and number 4 is about handling interruptions when you're interrupted, how to handle them in a professional and polite manner, and also how to regain your focus. We talked about being focused and defocusing and then going back to your original focus. I'm just going to show you a few different methods on how to do that. So I'm just gonna go back to full screen. It's easier for me to illustrate it for you. So every task and every project has something that I call takeoff time. And takeoff time, it's inspired by the takeoff time pilots use before taking off. Takeoff time is the time you spend on orientating yourself into an email or a task. So let's just use emails as an example. Takeoff time would be the time it takes you to open and read the mail. Once you know what to do about it, then you can execute. So we have execution time here and takeoff time here, or orientation time, you could also call it. Orientation time. So let's imagine that you're sitting at your desk now and you're being totally focused, one thing at a time. In other words, you're being extremely efficient. Then one of your co-workers comes by, or maybe your boss, as one of you mentioned, comes by and says, do you have a minute? So now you have to decide, is it a good time to be interrupted or not? And we have to remember at all times that we are supposed to, most of us are supposed to be available for questions and so on during a workday. But sometimes maybe we have a deadline, or maybe it's just so important to stay immersed into this project. Maybe it's going to cost you too much time and focus if you're being interrupted all the time. So it's kind of a decision you have to take from time to time, from interruption to interruption. But let's imagine that you're being focused right now on a very important task and you have a deadline in an hour. So you need to stay on track with this task. Then somebody comes by and says, do you have a minute? So I'm just going to give you 2 very easy methods on how to handle the interruption and how to regain your focus. So for me, I was brought up in a consultancy culture where we were supposed to be online and available for questions at all times, almost 24/7. So it's been quite a journey for me to reach a point where I feel comfortable turning down an invitation or turning down an interruption. But I just know in terms of time and focus and efficiency that sometimes it's just for the better if I can stay focused. So for me, it's been very important to find, a sentence that feels okay when I'm turning people down. So my sentence, and you can create your own or you can just steal mine, but my sentence is, when my colleague comes by, is it okay if I get back to you in an hour? Always give people a time frame, because most people don't mind waiting a little bit as long as they know for how long they're going to be waiting. What's really annoying is if you don't know if it's in 5 minutes or an hour or maybe tomorrow. So give them a time frame if you're able to. So my sentence would be, is it okay if I get back to you in an hour? And then I always say, then you'll have my undivided attention. And this last part is really important because I don't want to sound, refusing or negative or anything. Actually, I'm just trying to let my coworker know that I really want to help you, but I also want to help you in a really focused way. And right now I'm not able to be focused. So can I get back to you in an hour? Then you'll have my undivided attention. I've never had anybody say, no, I think now would be a good time now that you're not even listening properly. So can I get back to you in an hour? Then you'll have my undivided attention. Of course, we have situations where people will go, no, I need your answer right now. Maybe they have a client on the phone or something else. So we also have to have a strategy on how to handle that situation. So in that case, my answer would be, okay, that's fine. Just give me 30 seconds, maybe 1 minute. Just give me 30 seconds to write down. I call it brain hooks. And I call it brain hooks because I have this image that in my brain, I have a number of hooks and I can hang information onto those hooks and then I can go get it later on. It's like an archive. So you can call it whatever you like to, but that's just the explanation behind the term brain hooks. So what I would say to my coworker is, can you give me just 30 seconds to just write down? And then I write down 2 brain hooks. It's very easy. It's very concrete. I write down, where am I at? And what is my next step? And it's quite equivalent to if you're reading the newspaper, you're reading on your iPad and somebody comes ask you a question, then most of us would place our finger on the sentence where we are at, and then we will, turn our attention and answer the question. And when we get back, we know exactly where we're at. And that's exactly the same thing you're doing here. Where am I at and what's my next step? Because then I can turn my undivided attention to my coworker. I can be present, I can be focused and answer the question. And afterwards, usually if I don't write the brain hooks, afterwards I would have to take the long way back into execution time. I mean, like during the takeoff time one more time. But because I've made these 2 brain hooks, where am I at and what is my next step? Now I can take the easy and quick road back into my original focus. And this will help you create so much more time and focus and efficiency. It's a very easy and very concrete way to handle interruptions and at the same time to stay polite with your coworkers. So these were 4 very concrete strategies on how to reduce and to handle interruptions. And I hope you feel inspired for the next couple of days to go look for patterns in your interruptions and to also do something about it. So we just have a few minutes. If you have any questions, just write them in the chat, or looks like we have 2 questions. I'm just going to pop in and see. No. Mm-hmm. No questions at this time. But if you do have any questions, I will be sitting at the chat now. So please write them. Feel free to ask questions, or you can also do it at the end of the seminar. But now is the time to look at how to make time registration a fun task. And this is where you literally come into the picture, Karsten.
Yes, I do.
There you go.
Thank you. Yes, I'll just jump in here. So we go to this. Yes, so I've started a time jam, and I really started time jam to find a way where I could get motivated to track time myself. But before jumping into that, as we just heard, and I just wanted maybe to just repeat this, that why is it actually that we track time? And I think Trine has really given some great reasons for why on a personal level that it can be very productive to track your time and identify these interruptions. But of course, there are also other benefits on a company level, because if you are invoicing your clients based on time. Of course, you need some great data to do that. And if you're running projects, the time tracking is really important for managing the projects and know how you're progressing and so on. And also many of you are maybe using time to report to customers and so on. And as mentioned in the intro, I've been tracking time for more than 15 years, and I've always hated it. But I've always understood why it was important. So that has not been the blocker for me, that I couldn't really understand the value of it. I understood the value for the company that I was working for, and that it was part of generating revenue and partly also the way I could get my salary paid. So it was not about, I don't understand why we're doing this, and I really had the best intentions about tracking my time, but still I found it very hard. And for me, it really fit into the category of New Year's resolutions, because every year I always also stand there at the beginning of the year and say, hey, this year I will, go more to the gym. I will lose weight. I'll probably I even stop smoking and so on. Again, some great aspirations, and I have a lot of good intentions around this, but they're really hard to complete and be successful at. And why is that? Well, there's been some thinking about this, and I think this picture really tells a good story, because to the left you have the current version of me, eating unhealthy, not going to the gym, and so on. And then to the right you have the future vision of me, where I want to go and who I want to be, going to the gym on a regular basis, eating healthy, looking good, and so on, and getting ready for the summer. The discrepancy here is really that it's the current version of me, in the current now, that I need to do all the hard work, and all the benefits are in the future. And because they are like divided, I need to do the hard work now, and then I can get the benefits in half a year maybe. Then it just becomes really hard to get things done and be motivated around it. And I think that time tracking has the same challenge. So if you go back to what are the benefits, as you can see, many of these benefits are in the future. So I need to do this on a daily basis, but the benefits are, maybe a month away or even longer. And if we dig a little bit deeper into it, only very few of the benefits are realized by myself. All the other benefits are realized by other people in the organization. So when it comes to invoicing, it's really for the sake of the CFO and the finance department. When it comes to running the projects, it's really for the sake of the project manager, and so on. So that makes it even harder to stay motivated in an activity that you don't find interesting, and it's really not for your own sake and benefit yourself immediately. And that really leads to procrastination, and where we postpone it to the very last minute. Maybe do it the last day of the week, or just after, when the finance department sends out these reminders saying, "Hey, Karsten, you forgot to register time. Please do it now. We need your time," and so on. And this procrastination and this whole idea of postponing leads to what I call the Friday guessing game, because this is really me and how I used to fill out my timesheets. I used to postpone it to the very last minute of the week. Friday afternoon, I was ready to go on weekend, pick up the kids and so on. But I just needed to fill out my timesheet. And I often experienced that it was really hard to remember what I've been doing throughout the week. And what I hear from a lot of my customers is that they experience the same. When you're standing Friday, remembering, did I use 2 hours or 2.5 hours on a given task during the Monday? That can be really hard. And when I was running an agency here in Copenhagen with 30 employees, I experienced this firsthand. I was standing Friday afternoon, yet again, had to fill out my timesheet, and I didn't have a clue. So I was just, hey, okay, I need to look into my calendar. What meetings have I had? Then I looked into my email just to get an idea of what had I actually worked on during the week. And as I was piecing together the puzzle, I was thinking, hey, this is not precise, this is not correct. And if we have 30 people tracking time like I'm doing as the managing director, then we are losing money on a daily basis. We are getting so bad data into our time tracking solution that we can't really run our business on these data. And if we look into just, as an example, emails, it has been measured that we on average spend 13 hours on emails on a weekly basis. But if you make a survey and ask people, 36% say that they never track time on emails. As you can see, there's a huge potential here. If we don't get those 13 hours in on the right project, on the right activities, we as a company can be losing out on a lot of valuable time and data to run our company on. And as another example, if we imagine that we have a company of 50 people and we have a billable rate of $200, and we have a average utilization rate of 70%. If 15 minutes are missed and put in wrongly into the time tracking solution per employee on a weekly basis, we actually can see that we are losing out on $84,000 missed revenue in a year. So all these, you could say, but that's only 15 minutes here, 30 minutes here that gets typed in wrong into the system. If you add that up across all the employees, across a year, it adds up to a huge number. And so you could say, what is the solution to this? I think it's very intuitive, but there's also a great article in Harvard Business Review about this, that if you can increase the frequency in the team, on how often they actually track their time, is an easy win. And they have, researched this and found out that if you can move it from once a week to once a day, there's a huge leap in the accuracy of the data and the quality. And how do you go about that? Well, this is the classical solution, right? And maybe some of you actually have this role as the manager who has to nag the employees about tracking their time. But the thing about this is that doesn't really motivate anybody. And I've tried both sides of this, and I just started ignoring these messages from the finance department or my managers and said, yeah, I'll do it. And then I would forget it the next week again, and so on. But also when I was a manager running this agency, it just, I didn't want it to be part of my role as a manager, as a leader for my team, also spend the bandwidth that I had in front of my team to talk about time tracking and reminding them about this, even though it was very important for our company. So what if we turn it around and take more of a perspective of motivations and building good habits? And fortunately, there's been written and done a lot of research into this area during the last 10 to 15 years. And there are some excellent books out there on the topic that I can only recommend you to study further. I don't want to go too much into the academic side of this, but maybe take a more real life example, which I'm very impressed by, because we have something called the DHL relay run here in Denmark, where companies can actually sign up teams to do a relay run of 5 kilometers, where 5 people in the company goes together as a team and then run 5 kilometers each. And what really impresses me is that you can get more than 200,000 people to sign up for this and do this and spend an afternoon in various parks across the cities in Denmark and do this. And these folks, they are both, regular runners, but also people who only run this one time a year. And looking into it, what is actually at play here, I think it's quite interesting for what we're discussing today, because what you experience if you join this is that immediately you feel this, that a team spirit is building up in your team, and you're doing this together. There's definitely a part of it that is all about being competitive, and we have some friendly competition against maybe the other teams within our company, or maybe the teams from the other companies, and so on. But also, very importantly, it's a very social thing. It's something that we do together as a team and as a company, and then you get some immediate recognition for your effort. So you get a time on a personal level, and you also get a time as a team and how you performed. But also, very importantly, it's a recognition not from your manager, but from your peers, your colleagues. And I think that's a great motivator for most of us. And I'm just bringing this example into play because I think it's really an interesting question to talk about. Can we actually bring some of these elements into play in the context of the everyday life in a company? And the answer is yes, because many companies today have what we call a company social network, and that can either be Slack or Microsoft Teams. And these platforms are really awesome for creating engagement, for creating social activity, and recognize each other and cheer on each other and give each other feedback. And that's what we've done in TimeJam, that we said, why don't we leverage this platform, this very strong engaging platform, and tie it into the time tracking process. And therefore, we built a bot, which just is an app that you install on either Slack and Teams. And then the bot gamifies the time tracking. It makes it social and a team effort. And then we use a lot of humor to increase the engagement. And it's actually really easy. We connect it to your time log. So people will just continue use time log as their time tracking system. And then the bot will feed on those data and extract those data on a regular basis, and then post all the messages on Slack and Teams. And as a manager, the only thing you need to worry about is what prize or reward you want to give to the winning team at the end of the month. So it's actually pretty simple. The employees are awarded points for tracking their time on a daily basis. And then the whole company is divided into teams that compete against each other. And then at the end of the month, a winning team is celebrated, and then it starts all over, and the teams have a new chance to win the prize. Then 3 times a week, the bot will give a leaderboard where you can see how the company is performing as a whole, but you can also see what team is in the lead and what team is trailing. And I hope you can see some relations to the running contest that I mentioned earlier. We also provide some private channels on the social network where each team can group up and build up the team morale and cheer on each other. And you could say, help team members that might find it hard to get their time into the time tracking solution in time. So in that way, you have a very strong social dynamic where people are helping each other out. And then we use a lot of humor because we are on a social network. It's internally in the company, but why not use GIFs and emojis to just do this with a good spirit and you have an example here where Homer is cheering on his team. They are in second place, but if they can just get a few more hours in, they might even win the monthly competition. And we are seeing some great results from this if we look at the numbers and how this can actually be measured. We are in the beginning of March, so many of you have maybe just closed the books for February. And we had a customer that before they started using TimeJam, when they were closing the month, they were missing up to 30 hours per employee that was not in the books. So you can imagine the frustration in the finance department, having to write out and say, guys, we need to close the books, we need to close the month, and we need to send out the invoices, but we are missing 30 hours per employee. And then getting the employees to find the time to get those 30 hours into the sheets. And you can imagine also, the quality of those data. There's a big chance that you would be missing out on some of the details that we talked about before. But after using TimeJam, they now have 95% of the hours tracked on time, and that's on a daily basis. So suddenly, when they're closing the month, it was very few hours that they needed to hunt down, and often it was just the last 1 or 2 days, and then they were ready for invoicing their customers, and they really had some strong, good data in the system that they could rely on. And we even have a case study of a customer that after 3 months with TimeJam and much more engagement, I think that's the important part, much more engagement from the whole team in tracking that time, they saw an uplift of billable hours of more than 10%. Okay, so that's really a huge benefit for the company. But beside the measurable numbers, I also think it's important to show some examples of the kind of engagement that you can actually create. And please remember, we are talking about time tracking that some of us really hate, right? And it's the least interesting activity during the week. But here you have a guy who actually sits down and designs a T-shirt about time tracking for his team in case they were going to win the monthly competition. And I hope you can see that this is completely different type of relationship to this activity and the motivation around it. And we have another guy here who actually wrote a small song about tracking time and using time lock and so on. And he just felt an urge to post this on the general channel in his company, just to show how committed he was to tracking time for his team. And yeah, we have some very happy customers, and we have, for example, here chore, who's a project manager at Frankly. And what is interesting is that they've been using TimeJam for more than 3 years. So it's not a one-off lift. They are still continuously seeing that 94% of their hours are tracked on time. And at Frankly, on time means on a daily basis. And what is even more interesting is that when they started 3 years ago, they were around 30 people, and now they are more than 50. So they've been growing rapidly during the last couple of years. And you can imagine, these newcomers to the company, they're just meeting, an organization where the idea of tracking time is just something we do, and we have a lot of fun around it. And we are also very social, and there are rewards and so on. So it very quickly becomes a way of how you work at Frankly, and therefore it has been a huge benefit for them. Another great example is Kyle here, who is working at Kolding Group in the US, and I really appreciate his statement here because what he said was that before he was introduced to TimeJam, even if he was 2 days late with his time tracking, it really built up a lot of stress in him because it just became one of these tasks where he knew that he wouldn't be able to do it at the right quality and so on. So it became just another stressing factor during his week. But with TimeJam, and of course with the help of his team and his peers, he's now into a strong habit of tracking his time on a daily basis, and that really just leads to much less stress for him on a personal level. So I think that's also really powerful. So I hope this has been a good inspiration to how you can actually turn the whole atmosphere around time track around by using a few simple measures. So if you're able to build some team spirit or introduce some competitiveness, then it can go a long way. I think it's very important to try to make it a social, a team effort, something that we do together, and to build in some immediate recognition of the effort by having some posts or leaderboards going out on the social network can also be very, very powerful. I will just end my presentation with some other inspiration. You have, because a lot of companies are struggling with this and are looking for creative ways to build up better habits. And Iris here has come up with a clever solution where, time tracking was tied to the use of social media. So you could not go into social media before you have completed your timesheet. And that can definitely be a big motivator for many people. RPA took it a bit further. They actually tied your reimbursement of your expenses, your expense report, to your time tracking. So in order to get your money out, you had to also complete your timesheet. So that was a strong monetary motivator there. My personal favorite is from Brazil, and I'll just jump in and play a little video for you. Let's see if we can get this running. Yes. Sorry, can you help me?
Can you just, yeah, I'll give you a quick hint.
Yeah.
If you click the video below.
Oh, yes. Thank you.
Dagens kein Bier, drum tränken wir es hier.
So I hope this was a little inspiration as well. It's not my idea, but I really like that approach as well. And I think it's a really good example on how you can make it to a social activity and build in some motivation. Okay, if there are any questions, please let me know. Okay. Okay. So will you join me?
Yes,
and then we can run up.
And you still have a bit of time if you have any last questions. Trine, Karsten, thank you so much for sharing this inspiration. I know we had great experiences with you, Trine, coming out and teaching us in TimeLog actually to work better and be more focused. And we have the busy lights also going on now, so that's really helped us a lot. And we are actually using TimeJam now. It also integrates to us, so it makes good sense. And it's been really good. We have seen more than 50% increase. I was looking in our internal figures of time tracking coming in. So, but we're also an internal organization, of course. But if you are billing your hours, of course, that makes even more sense. And it's been very easy. And I got a lot of cinema tickets for it. So
Yeah.
Thank you, Karsten. It's been really nice. You will receive some information about this afterwards. Just one final thing I would like to share with you before signing off. Not for this, but from time to, we have a lot of uses from TimeLog today. And I just wanted to say that both Trine and Karsten's methodology, of course, becomes easier if you make time tracking easier. So if you want to look into the data and you want to make it easier to be in the competition, of course, it's better to make time tracking easier also. That's a little something. So if you are not using these things already, I really recommend you to take your mobile phone and download the app. I don't have it with me, It works the same as a timesheet, and actually your time registered employees doesn't even have to go into TimeLog. They can just use the app. You can also turn in the timesheets, absence, mileage, and expenses. So everything can actually be done on there. Also vacation. If you are working at desk, like I am a lot, then and you want to kind of do what Trine says, then this desktop tracker is really good. It's a little background app that I have running. Personally, I use it all the time. You can have it running behind your normal work, and I can quickly switch between tasks. And that means I can actually see how much time I spend on email, and it's a worryingly amount, and all the kind of interruptive tasks. But of course, also see how much I actually work on the project we prioritize. So that just makes it easier for you to do. And sorry. The final one is we have an Outlook integration. And that means if you create a meeting in Outlook and you attach time tracking to it, then it's just tracked in TimeLog and you don't actually have to worry about it. So there are 3 options to making if you are using TimeLog today, also if you're not, you're welcome to use them, to make your time tracking a little bit easier, a little bit more motivating, and a little bit more precise, so you can actually see what's impacting your day. After this presentation, so you will receive an email where you can get some contact to Trine and Karsten. If you want to have Trine come out and explain, talk more, we have 20 minutes today, so it's a little bit squeezed. I know you'd be happy to do that when there's time for that. Karsten, also, if you want to try out Time Jam, I know you have a 30-day trial. We can just test it out. It's very easy to get started. And then we always like to learn in TimeLog. We would like to know what we could do better in this webinar. So there is also a short survey. And if you would like to answer that, we would very much appreciate it. So all in all, one last thing. We're filming this in March, and very soon we will have the SPI maturity benchmark for the consultancy industry coming out. It's the main international benchmark for the industry. We bought it in TimeLog, so you can have it free. You will receive it in the newsletter, and also we will call in for a webinar. So I hope you will attend that, where we go into depth of what has been going on in the consulting industry and get a really good overview. So thank you to you, and not least, thank you to you for attending today. And we hope you get some good knowledge to take home to your workplace. Thank you.